Tuning in to the online broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Cool. Hey, everybody. Welcome to AfterBuzz, a brand new show here, Scorpion. And I will be your host for this season, I believe. My name's Nando, Velasquez. And across from me for today is Monse Bolanos.
Hi.
Hi. Never worked with you before.
Never.
Never at all. So
Awesome.
this is going to be awesome. We also have other people who will be on the show. But as for today, we were just the two of us doing solo. But I think it's enough. There's a lot to talk about.
Really?
So it's really, really awesome. By the way, that song was The Geeks Will Inherit the Earth by I Fight Dragons, I believe it's called. So they don't have a theme song yet.
They
so
don't. No,
I figured that was appropriate for this song.
I agree.
Let me put my glasses on here. So anyway,
He just wants to look like a genius. Like
I want to
everybody
look
else
like
on
a
the show.
genius. Yeah, I might as well look more nerdy for this show. Not that I don't look nerdy in real life, but the glasses help. Anyway,
I'm gonna wear glasses next week.
so
guys.
let's just start off. I just want to start off by saying, from looking at all the new fall shows, I really loved this one. I became a fan right away. It seems to have a lot. They described it as Big Bang Theory meets the CBS procedural. Like the Big Bang
Right.
Theory go on cases and solve problems. What do you think?
I totally agree. I actually did. I knew it was about a story about geniuses, but I was like, I'm not gonna look further into it. I'm just gonna watch the show and see what happens. And it was one of those shows that I told you while we were watching it, I stopped writing because I was so into the episode, and it moved so quickly. It was so witty. It wasn't just what I was expecting it. It surpassed my expectations.
Yeah,
on the pilot.
I would say, that even though when I saw all the trailers, because this show actually, this pilot, this was the pilot, and it was shot for Upfront in May. So this has already been shot a couple of months ago, and then of course CBS picked it up, so they started doing episodes after this. But usually the pilot's always a little more choppy.
Right.
It can be a little off, and then once we start seeing a couple more episodes, it gets into the groove. But I really, like I said, I really enjoyed this. The cast. The only notable people that you'd know right away that I'm sure people recognize is Katharine McPhee and Robert Patrick. Katharine McPhee, who was most recently in Smash, and that only lasted, 2 or 3 seasons, I believe?
2, I think.
2 seasons. Unfortunately, I know I was a fan of that.
I stopped watching after the first one because I was like, it lost me.
I was a fan, but I with all the other shows I watch, like on AfterBuzz, I stopped watching too.
There's
I'll
a lot
catch
of
up.
Good
I will
television.
Yeah, there's a lot of good TV.
Yeah, so the ones that are good, that are just good, you lose.
And then Robert Patrick, I think people recognize him right away. I mean, his most notable thing that he's ever done was Terminator 2, Judgment Day. So he's aging pretty gracefully, I'd say.
It looks just like him though. Like, yes, he is aging, but it's him.
And then the lead, he's been in some shows before. You might recognize him. He was in World War Z. I remember him as a doctor in World War Z.
Yes.
Elias Gabel, British actor. And in fact, I believe, I feel like they set up the opening in Ireland with Walter O'Brien as a little kid to kind of, just to kind of set up, if his accent goes a little wonky, you could say, yeah, he was from overseas.
Right.
So, but let's get started on the show because we'll talk about everybody else as we go along, and we have some news and gossip, of course, as well. So we open up pretty much with the origin story of Walter O'Brien meeting Robert Patrick's character, which is Cabe Gallo, excuse me.
Gallo.
And, they apparently, young Walter wanted to get the blueprints for the shuttle.
To put on his wall.
To put on his wall. So this seemed like very, early 90s. They didn't say a year, but it seemed like it was probably early 90s based on ages and everything.
Right.
And it makes sense. And the one thing I thought I want to bring up, because it comes into play later, is he had this really funky sweater when he's when the government agents Bolt in, I guess it was the FBI.
Yeah.
They go in there, or CIA, excuse me. They go in there, and pretty much he's got a extradition paper. He's got an extradition paper and an immunity agreement to show them how he hacked into NASA.
Right.
So incredibly brilliant kid, and he has this goofy fluffy blue sweater with planets on it to just show he's a big space geek and into the planets.
Exactly. It's like, oh, of course, NASA goes right with the sweater.
Of course, it looked like a Christmas sweater.
Yes.
Like his mom made him a Christmas sweater and said, oh, I'm going to put Saturn and the planets on it. So I thought it was really, really cool. And there was a quick 2-minute introduction to show how Walter O'Brien was a kid genius who did something amazing as a little kid, and his introduction to his relationship with Gabe Gallo. Gabe Gallo. The C and the G are going to mess me up, so forgive me, guys, if I mess up a name. It's the first show. Anyway, so we end up seeing Walter in modern day, and he is on a date somewhat, or he's breaking up with his girlfriend. Yeah.
Janice Keller is the name we read.
Yes,
but
she had that coat on.
The coat.
It looked like...
Could have been a lab technician. Could have been so many different things.
Yeah. Pharmacist, lab technician, doctor of some sort.
Something, yeah.
Yeah, so I thought... really cute girl, and obviously, I'm not. You're probably a better judge than me at this, Monse. Just to say, I'll go for the girls, but as far as guys, he's looking pretty cute, right? Like he can.
He's cute.
He's cute.
Yeah, he's cute.
Yeah, obviously, he's a leading man for a network show. He better be cute.
Yeah.
And apparently, he's cute enough to get a girl, but not keep her, and he just doesn't know how to relate to her emotionally.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. If somebody broke up with me and gave me a document as to how I would be feeling, I don't know. I feel I would punch him. I don't know. How do you deal with a genius?
He gave her a decision tree.
Right.
So instead of flowers, he gives her a decision tree to help her to connect with her emotional state of what's going to happen when they break up.
Right. Because he can't connect emotionally.
And then to boot, he's out on a job. We discover that this genius who hacked into NASA is actually fixing wireless in diners. That's his gig right now. So she storms out. Cute girl storms out, and we get to meet Catherine McPhee's character, Paige. The waitress, and she has her son there, and Mr. Giannakos. So I have no idea if we're going to see him again, based on the ending of the pilot, but just worth mentioning. Nice Greek owner for a diner.
Afraid of immigration status.
Afraid, as we discover, he might be there legally. Business owner who's there illegally. Absolutely. So we get to see Walter. And fix the wireless, no problem at all. Really easy for someone as brilliant as him. And we also get to see, which I think is really cute, we get to see him start to connect with Paige's kid.
Right.
So, which
Ralph.
I thought... Ralph, which I thought was really, really... he saw... We saw later on that he was playing chess with the salt and pepper shaker and the jelly packets and everything, but we saw the beginnings of that.
Right. I didn't know that's what he was doing. I was like, he has to be doing something intelligently. I don't know how to play chess, so clearly I wouldn't have known unless there was chess pieces.
It was more than checkers. It definitely was more than checkers.
Definitely, there was more,
so we get to see a little empathy, actually, a first sign of empathy. I believe, Walter sees a kindred spirit in Ralph. So he decides to nurture him a little bit and play around with him, and he gives Paige some advice, and he also tells Mr. Giannakos not to yell at him, which I thought was kind of cute. After all, Walter's obviously the hero of this whole thing, he's gotta have a good heart when it comes to that. And then we get to see the rest of the team. So let's go over the team because I think it's obviously really, really important.
Yes.
So there are 3 other members in the team. We first meet Sylvester and Happy. And Happy is hacking. Or rather, she's trying to steal electricity.
Yes, because they haven't paid for it.
Because they haven't paid their bills. And your first impressions of Happy. What do you think of Happy?
And a little too intense. I don't know. I felt like she was like, I'm the woman and I have to stand my ground.
Yeah. She's played by Jaden Wong. And my first impression, I don't know, we were talking about it a little bit. Hopefully, this is the pilot, so things will get adjusted perhaps, but I almost felt like she was just I think she was supposed to be strong, but she was way too strong.
Right, yeah.
Way too strong. And you said it, and sorry if it sounds stereotypical. I'm not trying to call you and throw you under the bus, but I agree. You said it. I was like, oh yeah, they have to have you have geniuses on a show. You have to have one of them as an Asian.
You have to.
But the fact that it was a female mechanical progeny,
right?
was different. Was a nice little swerve.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really interesting. But again, she's got the leather jacket on.
Yeah, she's intense.
She's a little too intense.
Exactly.
They all are socially awkward, so I'll take that as a character choice. That's her way of being socially awkward, coming across really, really in your face. But still thought it was just a little. That's the one character I'm really curious about. We'll see.
But like you said, it's a pilot.
Yeah.
You know, we'll see how her character develops.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. She was the one that kind of stood out like a sore thumb to me.
Yeah.
Like it just was a little bit off from everyone else, and the chemistry.
She grew on me later on. I'll say when. She grew on me a little bit later on in the end. So I'm sure it's just a little bit of a just trying to throw everyone in the pilot, because the purpose of this show also of a pilot when they create one is to put as much information as possible to sell it to the broadcast networks so that they get every character, every relationship. They understand there's nothing ambiguous about the show.
Right.
So I get that they wanted to say, okay, here's her character. Go.
It's
show
true.
it.
Yeah.
So the other character we get to see right away is Sylvester, and Sylvester Dodd. He's played by Ari Stidham, if I'm saying his name correctly.
Stidham, yeah.
Yeah, Stidham, and they called him a human calculator, and we definitely see he is your typical nerd out of the whole bunch.
Yeah.
He looks the most like the typical nerd, like the lovable, typical nerdy guy.
Somebody like from high school, you'd be like, that's the nerd in my class.
Yeah, up to the way he's dressed and very neurotic. Not to say that the typical nerd is neurotic, but he obviously is incredibly brilliant, but he's saddled, you could tell, out of everybody, he's saddled with the most social ineptitude.
Yes.
And the most, like, he obviously has OCD. We see that. He was distracted by numbers, crunching numbers, so he didn't pay any of the bills, and he actually forgot where he put the cash to pay the bills. And then we see the fourth character, who, very interesting, I actually like him a lot, Toby.
Yeah.
Who is the, I wrote it down. They said they called him a couple of different things. He's the behaviorist. He's a Harvard-trained behaviorist.
Yeah.
And they also said he's a world-class shrink. And he reminds me of, and I can't remember the name of the character, but the TV show Lie to Me was all about like trying to read body language. This is a guy who can totally read body language. He can get clues. Yeah. Really, really awesome. Very like awesome detective.
Yeah.
But he also has obviously a gambling problem, and I get the idea that he's just a little too cocky because he could read people. So I think he's just a little too cocky. He doesn't realize it.
You know that you see that in the hat.
Yeah, and the hat. I got the hat.
I got the hat. I'm always on point. That's what he said.
I'm always on point because I got the hat.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's going to be a really, really interesting character. And if it was killing me who this guy was, because he also reminded me of a friend of mine, but he turns out to be Eddie K. Thomas, who, if you're not familiar with the name, you'd know him from all the American Pie movies.
Right.
So I thought that was really, really awesome. We have someone, I didn't know what happened to him since the American Pie movie. So it's great that he got this role.
Such a good change.
Such a good change. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Believable.
Absolutely. Yeah, believable. So anyway, Toby's running back from the guys that he swindled out of a poker game because he was able to read their tells and see their pupils dilate, I believe, something like that.
Yeah, that's what he said.
and then Cabe Gallo comes and rescues them. And we see that whatever happened between the beginning of the show with that flashback in Ireland and present day, obviously there was no love for Cabe Gallo from Walter.
Yeah, my favorite part of that was when Walter tells him it's very difficult for someone who has a photographic memory or like a genius like Walter to forget or put it aside or move on and let it go. He's like, I don't forget.
Yeah.
And it's
absolutely.
so true.
Yeah, I mean, obviously these people are so smart that they don't suffer fools gladly.
Right.
And he felt he got fooled. He said, I got fooled once before. You expect me to just jump right in and do it again? You know, he learns from his mistakes. That's what a genius does. They figure out where they make mistakes and they correct them. And they look at, and in his case in particular, he looks at relationships in that same way that he would look at any problem that he's trying to solve. Just as facts and figures, and doesn't really know how to connect.
Yes.
So anyway, the premise for the pilot pretty much, and what gets them all together, is the fact that due to a software upgrade, a buggy software upgrade at LAX, over which we're very familiar with Los Angeles being here, that there was a glitch and apparently it caused a malfunction which shut down communications between the control towers over at LAX, Burbank, and
they said one
more. I want to say Long Beach.
It has to be.
It's probably Long Beach.
Has to be.
But the 3 major airports around here pretty much are those 3. Between those 3 airports and 56 planes up in the sky.
Right.
And that if they don't figure this out and they don't rectify the problem, that all the people in these 56 planes will be crashing once fuel runs out. They will all die.
Yeah.
Bodies all over the place. LA will be
20,000 people.
20,000 people. Yeah, LA will be a graveyard.
Yeah.
So this is the premise. So of course, at first, Walter declines, but after we get to see that these 4 people, as brilliant as they are not smart when it comes to handling money either.
Right.
So $50,000 and also some goodwill. The fact that they do have hearts finally gets Walter to agree.
Yeah.
So which I think was really good. And just moving along, they end up figuring out that they can't get to LAX in time, but they figure out let's go to a Wi-Fi station.
Because that's what they need.
Because that's what they need.
Stable Wi-Fi connection. That's all they need.
That's all they need.
Yeah.
And they didn't have their own electricity technically.
Right.
So, and they were already traveling when they figured this whole brilliant plan out. So, and they were talking, and by the way, they were talking to the air traffic controller LAX, which I loved, was Ernie Hudson was the guy in charge.
Yeah.
Was that Mr. Pike or that was Captain Pike was the captain from before? But anyway, yeah, Ernie Hudson. So I totally loved seeing him. Ghostbusters 30th anniversary.
I know, he's always good.
So anyway, so they decide to go to the place where he just fixed Wi-Fi that he knows because he did the job himself.
Right.
Super reliable. Probably no other reason for him to show up at all, even though you could tell he had a little thing already going on for Paige. And the whole group go over there and they commandeer the diner. Really fun scene. Mr. Giannakos is like, immigration. Oh no, I'm a little nervous. Runs out, makes Paige in charge.
Makes money in the process.
And makes a lot of money. Dude, that's pretty impressive. I gotta admit, having that kind of a job, like he's just throwing money around, $50,000 to each you. Here, we're gonna use your diner. Here's a bag full. Here's a envelope full of money.
You
see the hundreds just spilling out.
Right.
I'm like, of course, I would be like, yeah, everybody out.
Yeah.
Everybody out.
And I would do the same thing if I was worried about immigration. I'd make my waitress stay. You close it up.
If I had a waitress and I was worried about immigration, yeah, I'd make her stay. Absolutely. So. We get to see a little more with Paige and Walter, nice little interaction. We get to see, everyone else has a specific job, and Walter seems to be the hacker, but Walter has, he said his IQ was, I believe, 196, and Einstein's was 180.
Yes.
So he seems to be well-rounded on many things because of the way he was reading Paige. With her fingernail polish, and fingernail polish, and just obviously the fact
shoes, his Ralph's shoes. Her bags under her eyes, or he's like, clearly you're not in sunlight, you're working 2 jobs. Like, he just completely dissected her.
That was a very Toby type of thing to do. I feel like the way he was reading her, and she didn't think he was 100% right because of the husband thing or the father thing, but and because apparently Ralph paints her nails, but still a beautiful scene. And then they also discover that. That the kid Ralph is a genius, and Sylvester was apparently a grandmaster chess player.
Yeah, and got beaten by a little boy
in 8 moves.
8 moves.
In 8 moves. 8 moves. So, and of course, it's so funny. I would be competitive, but Sylvester is like, oh my God, this kid's brilliant.
Yeah.
Even Sylvester's like, I love this kid.
Yeah, excited about it.
He beat me in chess. So, really, really funny. So anyway, so we get to see a little interaction with the 2 of them. We definitely see sparks.
Oh, yeah.
We know it's setting up for some sparks between Walter and Paige. And obviously the kid Ralph has a lot to do with that too because, I think Walter said it best. She wears no-name brands and the kid is wearing orthopedics. He's wearing, all of the money's going to him. So she cares. He's the biggest thing in her life is her son. So, and obviously Walter sees a kindred spirit. As he says later on when Ralph starts talking to him. So we definitely get to see that little triangle, and we see a lot more of it later on. But anyway, we end up discovering that the only way they could solve this problem is to find the backup server. And of course, because it's TV and you got to be on the edge of your seat, if they don't get the backup server within like 20 minutes, and it's in another part of town, closer than LAX, but another part of town. If they don't get there in time in 20 minutes, the whole thing gets, it gets backed up every 12 hours. So they back up the buggy software over the original software, and they lose it forever. So we see Toby and Happy going to work. So this is kind of cool. We get to see a little teamwork from 2 other members of the team.
Yeah.
And again, Happy being really, really tough, and then the Fed coming with them, and seeing her, be badass with the Fed.
Right, because he was about to shoot at the lock to get in, because they couldn't get in because nobody was there. She's like, how are you gonna do that? You could kill somebody because the bullet can come back towards us.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
I would have never thought
And
of
she
that.
said, don't make the Fed talk
Don't
anymore.
make the Fed talk
Stop
anymore.
the tech from talking. So, again, really, really showing that. Thankfully, Walter figures out a plan to do a brownout within a 10-block radius. We get to see part of Sylvester's, again, idiosyncrasies with his OCD, trying to rearrange chalk on I thought this was really interesting. Sylvester, I don't know if you noticed this, maybe if you did, stop me, but Sylvester starts noticing the chalk and starts fixing it according to, I think, color and size, because that's what Paige says when she decides to wipe all of the chalk except for one. Says this is the biggest and the smallest, so it's in order. And he goes, great. So this guy who's so, he was germophobic earlier because he was talking about 20 diseases from chicken exposure or whatever. And so he's obviously a germophobe too. So the first thing he does when he gets his piece of chalk is he uses his hand and wipes the chalkboard with his hand, with nothing else but his hand. So I thought that was a really weird...
I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
But then I was like, well, maybe... I don't know. The OCD is other stuff. Maybe it has, maybe it's the information he knows about. Maybe he's like, I can't get a disease from cleaning this with my hand. I know that. But I thought the same thing. I was like, that's weird.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the point was he's slowing it down because of his process, and they just decided to go forward. There was no eraser, nothing else. He just used his hand, and so all of a sudden he couldn't concentrate because of chalk. But now all of a sudden he has no problem getting his hands dirty.
I'm just gonna say that's probably because he was like, I have no time, because he kind of did hesitate. Like, he got the chalk and looked up, and he was like, okay, and then cleaned it.
All right, maybe I did. Maybe that beat was a little fast for me, but maybe I'll give you that.
Maybe he was like, I don't have time. People are gonna fly out of airplanes real soon.
All right, I'll give you that one. Anyway, he figures out really quickly 500,000, I think, kilowatts or whatever. I might be saying it wrong. I'm thinking Back to the Future when I say that kind of thing.
Some amount of kilowatts.
And they do the brownout. They get into the server area. I can't remember the name of it, but where they have the backups. And Toby, through his amazing powers of behavior, being a shrink, behavioralism.
Loved that scene.
Yeah, trying to figure out the guy who's left-handed, the guy's this. He's showing power, and it's LAX, so he wouldn't have it down below. Narrows it down, pulls it out. Happy's like, "Are you sure you got the right one? How do you know you got the right one?" Because it says LAX on it. So really cute, really funny. Funny little payoff type of scene, but still, I'm loving the different nerdy types that are together.
Read my mind. I was literally about to say that.
And how they're working together. And I really love hearing a lot about someone who is incredibly intelligent when it comes to reading people and figuring out everything just from looking at them and looking at their surroundings. So kind of a very Sherlock kind of way of deducing people. So yeah, Toby, again, a very, very interesting character. I'm really digging him. Anyway, unfortunately though, as smart as they are, they're still prone to mistakes because Toby ended up taking good care of the server, but he still put it next to a stereo speaker which had a magnet and demagnetized the file, so it was corrupted. So all of that work went for nothing. And of course Robert Patrick is talking about, 2 planes will probably be lost, and if they try and regroup, and the greater good theory is mentioned, which is we lose a few for the sake of saving hundreds or thousands more, and Paige, Paige
the
obviously,
non-genius.
the non-genius is like, that's not acceptable.
Yeah.
And possibly because Walter has a crush on Paige and wants to get Paige, that he decides to, okay, you're right. And actually she says, take a deep breath and reset, which I thought was interesting because that's a very IT way of looking at a computer problem. Checking the on-off switch, turning it off, resetting. Yeah. And that, of course, kind of cliche, but all of a sudden he's like, reset, I figured it out. Yeah. So he ends up having a new plan of action. There were a couple of moments like that in the show, obviously, but anyway, so we have another plan, which is pretty much for them to end up going to, end up trying to get the, actually, no, wait, I'm confusing it a little bit here. Stop me if I'm wrong. Okay. They did the reset thing earlier because once they got the corrupted file and they were about to give up, he sees Walter looking up at the sky at the plane, and that's the other moment that Walter sees Ralph looking up at the plane.
Yeah.
And that's the moment when he realizes that the planes have the original software.
Yes, that was later. That was because like you said, they had a couple of hiccups in the way.
Yeah.
The first one was the reset, and then they had to go get the software. That's when
the reset. Apologies. The reset started the whole scene with getting the data server.
Yes.
To reset the system, but then when Walter looked up at the plane, it was almost, again, it's like kindred spirits, and they kind of. It was almost like I almost wonder if it was Walter trying to communicate by looking up at the sky when not Walter. Sorry, Ralph trying to communicate when he was looking up at the sky. You know, that Walter saw him. He was like trying to show him that the planes would have the answer.
That's kind of what I thought.
Yeah.
I thought that was his way of like helping him out, because obviously he's not dumb. Like, we didn't hear a lot of Ralph speaking at all.
Not at all.
Very minimal.
Because he doesn't communicate, doesn't get along with other kids, and he feels, exactly.
But I don't think, even at the end, like, we saw that he feels much more comfortable with Walter, but I thought that was his way of contributing to the situation. Totally, when he looked up at the plane. Because they had that moment together. It was like, oh, yeah, you're right.
They're totally bonding. It's like future daddy, maybe.
Yeah.
So, regardless... So Walter has this brilliant idea to try and get the system from the planes, but in order to do that, he's got to go to an airfield and he has to figure out how to communicate with the planes.
Right.
So we see another brilliant moment with Toby and Sylvester trying to look at the what do you call those? I'm forgetting the name right now with the list of passengers on all the planes.
Yeah.
There's a name for that, and I can't remember right now. But they're looking over the plans and seeing who would have a cell phone on. And of course, Toby ends up, they're rushed for time, and Toby ends up figuring out that somebody with an old analog type phone, cellular phone, which would have better service anyway, would have it. And the salesman, the 50-year-old something salesman, would have it on. And there's a little cute moment where the salesman doesn't believe the call and all that, but still really, really good working. Meanwhile, while they're doing that, Paige and Walter are driving through the streets of LA. Which
Happy's making all the lights turn green.
And Happy is being very happy, probably making all the lights turn green. And because they kind of went behind Gallo's back on this, because Gallo was trying to figure out, he was trying to call in originally the fourth option they had, which was to shoot down the planes, but then he was trying to work with, I guess, the government to try and find their own way to get there. He ended up chasing after Walter and ended up sacrificing himself.
For the greater good.
For the greater good. So the greater good coming back into play, which I thought was really, really nice. And with that one light on Barrington that didn't work. I remember it was on Barrington. That didn't work. This was around the time when you stopped writing. I know this is around the time.
Yeah, this is when I was like, I'm just going to watch this episode because so much is happening and I didn't want to miss it. Because when you write, you miss. Yeah. That's what it is.
That happens.
It happens. So this is definitely when I stopped writing.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so of course we get to see this moment again with Paige and Walter working together, getting over to the airfield, trying to get the data, not being successful right away. So they end up doing, and this impressed me for a pilot too, to boot. And it really, because this might set the tone for the series, and I'm glad to see it's not just going to be all about a bunch of people sitting around talking about things that even you and I as normal people will be like, okay, they're talking about servers and computers and this and that, they actually is a lot of action involved too.
I agree.
So it involved them hacking into or breaking into a Ferrari, which I thought that was a cool moment with Happy. Yeah. Figuring out how to break into it.
She instantly knew. He's like, hey, how do I break in? Oh yeah, just go here, open up the gas area and pull this out.
She sat like all bow-legged like a dude, and they're like, yeah, this is what you do. And it was really funny. She just took on this whole like persona when she did it too, which I thought was funny. But them breaking into a Ferrari, I believe it was, and hardwiring their laptop with the plane, which involved a lot of acrobatics from Paige. Yeah,
Paige even mentions that. She's like, so this all comes down to plugging something in?
Yes.
That's all we need.
That's what he said. Sorry. But anyway, so it came down to just good old-fashioned connection. Which actually connection very interesting because that was a big theme throughout the show about people not being about these people not knowing how to connect. Paige not connecting with her son. Even Walter said she didn't connect with her husband, which she took offense to, or with the father at least. I don't know if she was married, but and then obviously all these people trying to connect.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really interesting. At the end, it's all about plugging in.
Right.
So they plugged in very high speed action. It was a pilot, so special effects wise, it was a little wonky, but believable.
Believable, not terrible, not the best.
But believable.
Totally.
And we see Catherine McPhee being Paige, reaching up, grabbing the thing. Yeah, cray move.
Never would have done that.
You never would've?
No, I don't care how cute I thought this guy was.
200,000 people are going to be dying. You wouldn't do that?
I understand that, but I'm going to die. I get it.
You might die. You don't know if you're going to die.
I mean, yeah, I guess as somebody that I was like feeling out told me, trust me, and I won't let anything happen to you. I'd be like, okay.
Well, there you go. Yeah. But it's still a great move. And then, of course, the plane, which I thought was really cool. They plug it in because the laptop was synced up. They synced it up ahead of time to the laptop at LAX through another connection. They didn't need the laptop they didn't need the laptop to save the day. The laptop just needed to download everything 100%, and it would have mirrored it to the other laptop over at LAX. So, of course, it was really awesomely done. Like, Paige is holding on to that laptop. The plane has to pull up because if it doesn't pull up, it's going to crash into the tower. And we see her like practically on the edges of her fingertips, and finally she has to let go of the laptop just as it hits 100%.
Yeah.
And the day is saved. And it was, and then of course they're about to crash themselves. Walter's about to crash himself, so he does a quick spin. Amazing how a genius like that can just drive the car like that and spin it out just inches away from a wall that would have crushed him.
We need to give a little shout out too to the co-pilot. He was also...
Well, he was in the Air Force, right? I believe they said you're in the Air Force.
You're in the Air Force, and then he had to also be basically hanging from this airplane.
I don't have the actor's name for this one, but yeah, I mean, really good, really good acting all around.
Yeah.
Really good from everyone all around. Yeah, I can't find the name, so I'm not gonna look for it right now. But anyway, so of course the day is saved. All the planes are rescued, and the gang is $50,000 apiece richer. But Agent Gallo has an offer for Walter to start up. He came to LA in particular to start a strategic response team, if I'm saying that correctly, and he wanted to put Walter and the gang up in this team to solve all sorts of cases, whatever responses they have to do, whether it's terrorist strikes or an incident like this. This was not a terrorist attack. This was just a buggy software problem.
Right.
So just to be there, they're government-funded problem solvers.
Right.
That's what Walter says later on when he's talking to Paige. So anyway, Walter figured it out, had it all planned. It was the only logical choice. And Paige gets $50,000 at least from the job, and he ends up hiring Paige. Obviously, there seems to be more than just needing somebody.
Oh, totally.
To help with the team there.
I don't think it's only his crush. I think it has a lot to do with Ralph, because he just wants to help Ralph out. Yeah. He knows what he went through, what he's still going through, clearly in his emotional connection with people. So I don't think it's just about the crush on. Yeah.
Well, Paige. I think you're right because we see, this is a character who's not really looking for love himself. He just broke up with the girl because he couldn't connect with her. So it seems like Ralph is the bond between the two of them. But, he also, I think he's a guy and he kind of sees this cute waitress girl.
Oh, totally.
And he's like, okay, interesting.
Totally.
And he also seems to be a guy who needs to be around brains. So it definitely is a connection there, and he gets to learn a lot and she gets to learn a lot too. And I mean, he said it really well. Again, it comes down to connection, but he says, I can translate your son for you.
You translate the world for us.
Exactly, but I need you to translate the world for us.
It's just so true.
Which is very true, because even Toby has problems really, even though he can read people, they have problems really interacting with the world in certain ways. They're very blunt. And what I thought was a really, really beautiful full circle moment, and this is the reason why I brought this up too, is when Ralph walks in and says hi. Yes, so when Ralph walks in and says hi, he's wearing a sweater that says Space Cadet, and it's got a spaceship on it, and it wasn't as dorky as Walter's sweater, but it was very similar. It was like
it was today's sweater.
Yeah,
if that
it was today's
sweater-
version of the sweater.
Exactly, today's version of the sweater.
Yeah.
Totally, I saw that, and I was like,
cool.
that's amazing.
Yeah, it was a really cute little bookend moment between the beginning and the end, and the closing shot really was. Well, you see Walter bonding with Ralph while playing a video game, talking about rewinding dreams, or talking about, I guess, their idiosyncrasies, their intellectual level, and we see Paige with this look in her eyes, like she's what's she thinking? Is she bonding? Is she happy for Ralph? Is she thinking about Walter? What's going on there?
I think she's only thinking about Ralph.
Okay.
I don't think she's thinking about Walter at all.
I think there's room there for both.
There is, but I think in that moment when she was looking, I think the reason she had the tears in her eyes was because of how Ralph reacts to Walter.
Yeah.
She said, he doesn't talk to anybody but me. And here he is sitting down talking about his dreams.
Yeah.
To someone and playing a racing game, which is what it looked like.
Yeah,
So
I believe it was a racing game.
Yeah, so I think in that moment it had to do about Ralph, but not overall. I think she does have a little thing for Walter.
Yeah.
But in that moment, I think she was like,
well, she's a mother first. I think.
Exactly.
I think she's a mother first.
Exactly.
I agree with that. And then the one thing that I did gloss over a little bit, and I believe he talked about it at the end to Paige, is his connection with Gallo from that we didn't see after the flashback,
Right.
which was Gallo kind of screwed him over because he had Walter create tracking software for military aid packages that were going to the Middle East, and they turned out to be used instead as weapons,
Right.
To send bombs out. So that's where all the mistrust with Gallo comes from, and we saw it throughout the show. Even after he agreed to work with Gallo, we saw little moments when it was obvious Walter didn't trust everything
Right.
that Gallo was saying 100%. And I think even Toby called Gallo out in the beginning there.
Yeah.
He's telling half the truth.
Yeah.
So really interesting with Toby also being there and being able to read people. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of heads butting between Gallo and Walter throughout this series.
Yeah.
And I'm really digging the show. Very optimistic about it. I will be honest. I mean, I loved the show when I saw it after upfronts, but some of the reviews have been a little mixed. But I think this show needs to get a little chance. And CBS is always so good when it comes to procedurals. I don't really watch procedurals often, but this one is definitely one I'm excited about.
Yeah, I agree. I think that for a pilot, it did very well.
Yeah.
Pilots to me sometimes have a very tough way of telling the story because, like you said, in 1 hour they are trying to sell it.
Yeah.
And trying to get every story out there, but they did it very well.
And if you look back at any successful TV show, any successful one, and you look at their pilot years after you've been watching it for a while, you'll notice a huge leap, and you won't even remember. Oftentimes, you won't even remember the pilot.
I know.
You'll see it, and you're like, "Oh my goodness, really?
This is the pilot?"
Yeah. Next thing you know, like characters change dramatically, or all sorts of things happen. I'm trying to think of specific examples, but I figured, well, let's not go in there because we got a limited amount of time.
Yeah.
So anyway. There was something else I was going to bring up before we get to predictions, but we can do predictions for right now, and then we think of the rest of them.
Okay.
Is that good? Oh, wait, actually, you know what?
News and gossip?
We'll do that too.
And now,
let's do predictions first. And then we'll do news and gossip.
AFTERBUZZ TV predictions.
We're going to do everything out of order.
Yeah,
So
we
we're
don't
going to
care.
start with predictions because we're fresh from the episode. We got to see a little bit of next week's episode.
A little bit.
Yeah, it apparently involves something with spoilers for anyone who doesn't like looking at clips from next week. We'll keep it very minimal. There's not much to know, but something involving either a virus or bioterrorism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all we got. It didn't say a lot. It didn't give us a ton.
But we could do predictions for the season or for next week.
It's so tough predictions on a pilot. But
Yeah.
in every show, there has to be an antagonist.
Okay.
There has to be. And we didn't really get one, aside from probably Cabe Gallo.
Yeah.
Which I think my prediction is that at some point he is going to once again use their intelligence to get ahead in other ways and not tell him the complete truth. So I do think it'll happen again. I think he's going to betray the trust, and poor Walter is going to be upset and left to figure out how to save the world. I know that sounds like intense, but I think he's going to try and do something, and Walter's going to have to stop him. That's going to be like a prediction way further in the...
Yeah, I feel like that. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I feel like that's something that will probably happen closer to a season finale.
Right.
You know, we'll see if Gallows, where his loyalties lie,
Exactly.
if he's going to be doing something like with the government, or who knows, maybe even he'll have to break away, and Team Scorpion will have to break away too from government-funded missions. We'll see that. That seems like something. One thing I noticed, it was a real heartbeat where it happened, and I think it's definitely come into play, is Toby's such a player. It's so obvious the way he's dressed even. Like, I bet you he's probably a really good pickup artist, not just a gambler, that I think he's going to be making moves on Paige.
On Paige.
And because of this, because of the fact that they're both really concentrated on Ralph, being Paige and Walter are concentrated on Ralph, that Walter is not going to realize right away that Toby's making moves on Paige.
But at the end of the episode, Toby's like, the waitress left, if that's who you were looking for. But I think that also says that Toby doesn't really relate to people that well. That's
he could
true.
read
You're
them.
right.
So if Toby wants a girl, he could probably. I'm thinking if Toby wants a girl, he could probably knows exactly what to do to kind of to say to smooth him over or something like that. You
Which
know?
I totally see that. Yes.
I even feel like the hat. You know, like there's a style pickup artist called Peacock. I almost feel like that was like a peacock type thing. This hat. And, you know, we saw also a brilliant moment with Toby where he folds his arms in front of Gallo and Gallo's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm mirroring you so you could subconsciously relate to me." So yeah, so I feel like he definitely can make a play for Paige. So I really see that becoming, I don't know if it's becoming a full-on triangle, but I definitely see that becoming a little friction between Toby and Walter.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're doing this out of order because I messed up, so I screwed up.
We just like to live life on the edge.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm sure everybody knows who Catherine McPhee is, but she was in New York promoting Scorpion, and people were just raving about her outfit. I know you probably aren't going to care, Nando.
I care.
But she did look pretty good.
Because if she looks good, I care if she looks good.
Yeah, she was wearing like a mini fuchsia dress, looking very, very hot, out there doing some shopping, and you can see on the screen, Nando, look at her. She looks so good.
Oh, she does.
Those legs, are you kidding me? She looks amazing.
Look, I'm not going to lie. I've been a fan of her since American Idol. So, I mean, she lost to Taylor Hicks, but she was #1 in my heart. So there you go.
I didn't watch American Idol that season, I'm not going to lie. But what I do like about her is that she can act. She actually can act. She's not just one of those people that became famous and started doing a bunch of random stuff. No, this girl can act. I like her. So, yeah, she was in New York, and nobody spotted her with her fellow co-star.
Yes,
who is
Elias Gabel.
Nobody spotted them together in New York, but they have been spotted canoodling in other places.
Yes, there have been some photos on the internet.
There have been some photos. Yeah, and while she was there, she was also I'm going to tell you right now. She was on a show while in New York. They interviewed her about the show, one of the late night shows. What am I thinking?
In New York? So it was either Fallon or Letterman?
I think it was Letterman. She was on Letterman, yeah.
Okay.
She was on Letterman.
Or Myers?
No, it was Letterman.
Okay.
And they asked her about nude photos. And she said, did something just happen in the last 10 minutes that I don't know about? And laughed about it, but never answered the question. So we'll see, Catherine McPhee.
Yeah.
What else we come up with her over the course of the season?
Well, we'll see. I mean, as far as the show's concerned, and this kind of ties in with predictions as well, there will be a crossover between Scorpion and another one of CBS's shows. It's going to be Scorpion with NCIS Los Angeles.
Oh.
So there will be, obviously, that Scorpion takes place in Los Angeles. It only makes sense that would be as opposed to New Orleans.
Right.
But what's really surprising about this is they're doing a crossover with an NCIS show, and yet the CBS's new NCIS show, New Orleans, as far as I know, there's no crossover plan for that. And, you know, that makes more sense to have the two NCIS shows do a crossover. So this is going to happen I believe, around Halloween.
Cool.
And, Linda Hunt from NCIS Los Angeles is going to guest star around Halloween. And we'll definitely have some more stuff. We're definitely anticipating, hopefully, getting some guests on the show and doing a lot more exciting things. And that brings me to iTunes. We are, it's our first episode. So if you're listening to us, thank you so much for listening to us. Most likely, you're probably tuning into us live on AFTERBUZZ TV AFTERBUZZTV.com, or you're listening to us a couple of days later because you're familiar with AfterBuzz. But please subscribe to us and give us a rating. It really does support us. If we have a lot of fans listening in, and we try and do the best job that we can, so we'd love to hear feedback as well, but we do the best job that we can. If you can give us some good ratings, that would benefit us when we go and talk to people and we get cast members and the producers and the writers, and ultimately it really just gets every other show here on AfterBuzz looking excellent as well, and it supports everybody here. So yeah, please do us a favor and comment, rate, subscribe on iTunes, also on YouTube or on AfterBuzzTV.com. Let us know what you think of this show.
Yes.
Very excited to be doing this. Very excited to be doing a show with you, Monse.
Very excited.
Yes, so it should be really, really good. Monse, where can they find you during the week?
You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Monse Bolanos.
Awesome. And you're also doing Gotham.
I am doing Gotham.
So that's later on tonight for those of you who are tuning in live.
Excellent pilot as well.
Yeah, awesome.
Way different shows, both very good.
Beautiful. And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Nandovel. That's Nandovel. It's fall season, so obviously shows are coming back. I'm excited to be doing Blacklist. The season premiere is tonight. And also looking forward to Walking Dead and Homeland coming out later this fall. But till then, you can tune in next week at our regular time here at AfterBuzz to catch the next episode of Scorpion. Thank you very much, and catch you next time.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.